So let's talk about Dune Part 2.
Let's do it.
So, Ian, we saw this movie a couple days ago, maybe 3 days ago. And we saw it with a pretty full theater, I would say. Pretty good size full theater.
Yeah, didn't have a bad movie experience because of anyone, so that's nice.
That was very nice. Everyone was very respectful. And what do you think? What are your general thoughts before we go into details?
Okay, so yeah, non-spoiler thoughts. I think I'm still struggling to decide if this is as good or better than the first. I think what I love so much of that first one was like the setup before like the tragedy happens.
Yeah.
And so this is like, uncharted territory, I guess, in like liking the story aspect of I guess the second half of Dune in a way. But I think the pacing, I think, is the only thing that I would have to complain about with this movie. I think there are points where like I couldn't tell per se if like how much time had passed or like why something was happening because it was somewhat abrupt. But other than that, like the story was incredible. Seeing the journeys of certain characters was honestly everything that I wanted. Seeing the action of certain fights was incredible. And this movie has an incredible ending and some very cool twists. Not like your traditional like mystery twist, obviously, but I think it took some unexpected turns that I was happy with. So very good movie. Very good movie.
Yeah. I think I agree with you about the pacing. I think that mostly towards the end, but I think my thing is for the first Dune movie, the first part, I felt like besides maybe one or two things, it really felt like everything, like they got to spend enough time with everything, even though some people would say maybe it's slow. I thought that they spent enough time on things that everything felt like it had the proper amount of time and it felt complete.
I think that is the thing, though. Like maybe it spent too much time on certain things. Like for some people, like I'm not saying like I'm complaining about it, but I can see how people would say this one is slow.
What, the first one or the second one?
Oh, I mean the second one. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean
both, honestly, but yeah.
I wouldn't say that the second one was slow. I never felt like part 2 was slow.
Sure.
But I think that there was arguably even more in part 2. Like part 1 already had like a lot of stuff it had to fit in. But I think there was
part
even more
I think.
in part 2 that like he had to try to find a way to fit in. And honestly, like I would have been happy getting another 30 to 40 minutes of this movie just so so things could breathe a little bit longer.
Yeah,
but
there's certain characters I wanted to see more. I'll say that. Yeah.
And as somebody who read the books, I definitely didn't think that I was going to be one of the people who, and I still don't have issues with the movie. Like I know that the movie and the books are two separate things. I just it's hard to separate the things in my mind a little bit. So it's kind of weird seeing the changes in the movie and then think about it that way. So like I still want to see it again to get a better idea about how I generally feel.
I'd like to see it again too. Yeah.
But I know everything that I'm saying is like more on the negative side. I do think that it was incredible.
Yeah.
I think that our friend Jared said that the score was one of Hans's weaker ones. I gotta disagree. I gotta hard disagree.
I'm gonna have to really pay attention next time I watch it.
It's not a flashy score. It's the same motifs that he built in the first one, which made it great in the first place. That's why it got the best score that year.
Okay.
But it added, and it like, especially like the love theme, it was really nice and solid, and it was more sweeping, like I was saying, than like anything that was necessarily flashy. The shots and the epic like scale, the way that, you know, even from the beginning of the movie where we see some bad guys and they're using their flotation device.
Yeah, you're just like, oh, okay, people can do that. Cool.
It was it could have looked
a big spoiler.
So goofy, but
right.
You believed it, and the way that people like, there is just such realism that they put into this sci-fi movie from another world that like everything just felt believable, down to earth, even though it was completely this otherworldly tale. And I think they mixed, I think all the characters had incredible arcs. I think some of the standouts for me is obviously Javier Bardem as Stilgar. So good. Lady Rebecca Ferguson as Lady Jessica.
Incredible too.
Incredible.
Austin Butler.
I was gonna say Austin Butler. My coworker was telling me they saw the movie too, and they thought that Austin Butler was horrible in the role. And I disagree, and like that's their opinion. But I thought he was great, and I thought that the accent that he did was kind of this. Yes, it was good. Reminiscent of Vladimir, you know, his uncle's accent, but it was still a little different. And I thought like it just, I don't know, it worked. It worked for me. You know,
absolutely.
Christopher Walken. I mean, really everybody was great. You know,
I don't have any complaints with actors.
I don't have any complaint. I thought just some of the scenes that happen are just like will be ingrained in my head forever. You know, most notably,
don't say any with the spoiler.
Well, sure. Yeah. But anyways, I thought it was great. I've lived with part one for so long that I need to see part two to really know how I feel.
I can't wait till we have a night where we can like watch them back to back. Yeah. Oh man, that's gonna be great.
I think that there's things I like more about this one, and there's things I like more about the first one. But to be honest, like Dune Part 1, like that's like I can watch that all the time. So like this one just like really picks up, you know, and like it just goes from the beginning. There's not like the traditional like just how the first one doesn't end like a traditional movie would. This one doesn't start the way a traditional movie necessarily would.
True, but this one also has somewhat of a untraditional ending per se, for like a conclusion of a story, you know, where it kind of wants to like leave a thread, you know.
I mean, a pretty big thread.
Yeah,
which we'll get into.
I'd say we start talking about spoilers. I'm tired of not.
I'm fucking tired of it. I'm tired of
listening to your vague talk, Zach. Okay,
it's my podcast, and I'll do what I want. And I won't take it anymore. Yeah. Little network reference.
Wait, what?
A little network reference. You know, the like, I'm mad and I'm not gonna take it anymore.
Oh, I thought you were kind of doing something like I want my money and I need it now.
Like yes, but that is a network reference.
Oh yeah,
where everyone's like, get out of your windows and scream that you're not gonna take it anymore.
Oh, true. You're right. Right. Okay. But yeah. Spoilers. I think I'll just get into some of my favorite scenes. I mean, obviously the first like worm riding scene I think is maybe my favorite scene of the entire movie.
Yeah, it's the fucking like just like it's like pummeling, and like the velocity, and
you just feel it all, you know,
you can feel the theater shaking.
Yeah,
and
I mean,
like
in a Dolby theater for sure. Yeah.
and like I'm genuinely like terrified if that thing was fucking coming at me.
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
it's lowering like practically mountains.
It genuinely felt like when he jumped on it, it felt like it was like a 50-50 chance he was going to survive. Like,
oh yeah,
that's how, just or maybe not menacing, but just how gigantic and dangerous this thing felt. And you felt all the weight, the movement. Yeah, it was incredible. I think another one,
and also not to mention
like
when he is successful, everybody because it was portrayed as such a feat. Like, everybody's
it was also
oh my God.
like the last step he had to take to become a Fremen. So
and
it was
everyone's
just like another
cheering.
right. Yeah. No,
so there's like all
great.
that build up too to like people are still like skeptical about him, and like this was like kind of the beginning of like, okay, we truly believe in this person.
But I will say that is somewhat of a part in a sense that is like not this exact scene, but like the build up to this moment is it's a long time. Like, I feel like basically the development of Paul becoming like Maldeep, is that how you pronounce
Maldeep? Yeah.
Paul, the transition from Paul to Maldeep, I think to me it feels like it's half the movie almost. Yeah, and I mean that's a long time for development. I agree. Like,
but it's other things
there almost needed to be more. Like I almost felt like there was more. Like I missed out on, like pacing. Like some of the pacing issues were from that, where you're like, wait, was this longer than I thought, or like should I have seen something in between this?
Yeah, I mean, like it's not. So in the movie, it's like a year. Yeah. In the book, it's like 3 years.
Wow. Okay.
You know, and so, you know, to be honest, I wish that I still think they did a good job, but I wish that the campaign that he takes on as Fedaykin against, you know, and building up the mystique and like the danger of like Mahdi, but the Harkonnens don't know it's Paul. Mm-hmm. I wish that they kind of like went into it and we really felt more of the campaign.
Yeah.
But
yeah, agreed.
But sometimes I think about it, I'm like, I don't know, they did a pretty good job with it. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that happens. I mean, like there's things that are completely cut out of the movie, like Paul and Chani have a daughter or a son.
I'm sorry, what?
Paul and Chani have a son, and that son dies. You know, so
okay, so they literally had to cut that out because they had the time frame be so much shorter. Like 3 years is a viable time for him to have a kid and that kid to die. Yeah, but 1 year, that's impossible.
And and we'll go into other things, but but like to your point, what you're saying about half the movie pretty much being that, it is that, but at the same time, there's still plot being told. Like you're still seeing the Harkonnens and mostly Raban, played by Dave Bautista, you know, just struggle with it. And also, while all that's happening, is the Fremen believing even more and getting into like a fanatical sort of
led religious by his mother, the Reverend Mother, which I honestly, genuinely, that's like, I did not expect that character to go that route, but I think it's perfect. I think pitting like the mother against the son was incredible. I loved it. I loved seeing her development, like becoming a Reverend Mother, and it just, I don't know. I thought it was all like so well done. You know, like she did Rebecca Ferguson did an amazing job with her.
I mean, the character of Lady Jessica is just so good.
Yeah,
and you know, and like there is a bit of that like mother against son sort of thing. Yeah, but it's also like as soon as she becomes the Reverend Mother, like she is taking on the memories of all these Fremen Reverend mothers and in the history of those people. And like it on top of her being like a Bene Gesserit, like there's just all the like as soon as that happens, like yeah, she's gonna want to put that into place. Like she's taking on all those memories, and so it's not like completely like she's being like yes, she's being manipulative, but like at the same time she
believes she has to do this. Right?
Yes,
yeah, for sure,
and it's done. I don't know. It's done very well. It's
agreed. I think what was also incredibly surprising was the development of the daughter that was introduced, in her womb in the first movie. I mean, insane that I'm assuming the water of life kind of like awoke something in that baby and gave that baby insane power. Basically, the baby starts like speaking to the mom from the womb, like I guess telepathically. And yeah, she understands a lot that's going on, and which is insane. I mean, the
baby's like fucking seen. Well, yeah. I mean, on top of the fact that
the baby hasn't really seen anything.
He's like the baby knows the history of like the Fremen.
Sure.
Somehow has some sort of foresight like Paul does.
Right.
And this is all as a fetus, by the way.
Yeah.
And, so her name is Aaliyah.
Mm-hmm.
And in the books, like I was telling you, she actually gets born during this time period and grows very quickly. Not like...
Oh, so she like grows a lot faster than like normal humans.
Yeah, like yeah. And not like... She's not like teenager age by any means within 3 years, but like she's
10,
maybe like 4 or 5.
Oh, okay.
Maybe a bit older. And so I get why. I do get why they probably cut that out. It might be a bit of a stretch.
Sure, I think that adds at least a half an hour to your movie.
Yeah. So I get it.
You know what? That almost that's kind of a problem, isn't it? Like, why wasn't she born in this movie? Like, if it was a year total of just part 2, and Paul at the original world that the Atreides live on, like, was like, I know you're pregnant, and she's like, I've only known that for a few weeks. I mean, the baby obviously, like, realistically would have been born by the end of this movie.
Yeah.
So maybe they're just gonna be like, maybe it's for some reason it's just a longer pregnancy.
Maybe it's still not even a year. I don't know.
It has to be at least a year. I'd be upset if it wasn't a year.
I mean, she's getting pretty close to pushing the baby out.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Gosh, maybe that's like actually telling how much time has passed. Like, it hasn't even been 9 months since the start of it, which feels ridiculous. That feels a lot. That feels like a really short time for like Maldeep to make a name of himself and like get the Emperor to come, and like, I don't know, like that. I feel like you need longer of a time range.
Potentially.
Yeah. It's got to be at least a year.
Potentially.
Yeah. But yeah, I would say, I mean, I did start this off.
Yeah, you're like, I'm going to show these are my great scenes.
No, yeah, we just started talking about other stuff too. But I think the Harkonnens had some amazing scenes. I mean, obviously, I think the most iconic for me is that first arena fight with Feyd-Rautha. He has such an incredibly menacing introduction where he just like stabs people without a thought.
People are shaking.
Yeah, and then you realize like, oh well, is he as tough as like we think he is? If like his opponents are being drugged before a fight,
right?
And yeah, he's as tough as he says he is, because the guy that isn't drugged when they fight is definitely like a very skilled Atreides fighter. And I mean, and Feyd-Rautha takes his armor off, and you're just like, oh, okay. So he's like toying with this guy at this point. He has like complete confidence he'll win, and yeah, he does. And that's the beauty of a great villain.
Fun fact: the Atreides guy that is not drugged is the stunt coordinator for the movie.
Oh, neat. You know, it's funny. I like at first glance, I almost thought that somehow the doctor, the Atreides doctor lived, because it was like all black and white, and I was like, wait, is that? Yeah, but no, it was like, no, this guy's way bigger than, than the doctor.
Yeah,
yeah.
And also that, I mean, yeah, everything on Gaiety Prime was great.
Yeah,
I love that. Basically, they took an infrared camera and inverted everything for those scenes. So it's not necessarily like black and white. It's like this weird thing that they did with the camera where like the veins stop showing, and like all those little intricacies of human skin. So you start to like view them in this really alien light, but it made the experience so much more like frightening but also like, intriguing to look at.
Mythical in a sense.
Yeah.
Like, it was so interesting, and like seeing the spectators like walk from also like their viewing rooms up to
like that whole arena is insane.
But just like seeing that transition of like the real-time transition of like them wearing full color and then walking out into the arena, and it like just switching to that weird infrared style. But
it was like a slow transition. I don't know how they did it. It was really good. It was really well done.
Very well done.
And like, I think like that, it's stuff like those scenes that like, it's like, I like how long things played out, and what like, because like you understand, like you were getting the drama of like, understanding everyone's like, oh my god, that guy's not drugged, and like
right
we're getting signals that it's like his uncle, and he's saying like happy birthday nephew, and like you're like what's the dynamic here, and everything's drawing out, and the fight's lasting a while, and whoever the fucking help is with the weird fucking horn hats, like that visual, some of the costume designs is just so cool, but also like freaky. Like if one of those people, even though they're probably just regular Harkonnens, like under all that shit, like if I saw them out and about, I'd be fucking terrified. There's like
I feel
and you know, we got to see some more intrigue with like the Bene Gesserit,
the Bene Gesserit were another huge highlight in this movie for me. Like I love seeing, like, obviously, you know, Rebecca Ferguson's like, you know, her character, I can't remember her name, weirdly. What is it again?
Lady Jessica.
Like, obviously she's not like a part of like the main Bene Gesserit anymore, but she's acting as one. But then you also have like the real main Bene Gesserit who's manipulating or pulling strings to manipulate Feyd-Rautha, and then also like has been manipulating the Emperor's daughter for like years and years, and
the Emperor.
It's like sure, and the Emperor, because she convinced the Emperor to like wipe out the Atreides, and so it's, I mean, like the Bene Gesserit, I hope there's a moment in like Dune Messiah, the next movie, where like they get what's coming to them. I hope to God that's the case, but if not, then I would just love to see like their plan come to fruition. But yeah, I think what they introduced there as well was like really great. I mean, it wasn't like a lot, but like I really love seeing the Emperor on his planet, in his palace, like with his daughter. I thought that was nice to see.
Yeah,
I thought Florence Pugh did a really good job.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think she and Christopher Walken did really great jobs in their roles. I think the design of that world, even though we didn't see much of it, was very cool. Because like,
agreed.
You don't really know about any of that stuff in the books, and like I was telling you guys, the books are kind of separated a lot of the times by the Princess Ireland's diary entries, you know, and to kind of start the movie off that way, the way that like Chani starts off part one, was like really cool to see, and a lot of the time like they were kind of the same diary entries from what I remember.
Oh, cool.
So that was really cool, and I think she, even though she wasn't in a lot, I think she was like a great addition. And
for
Christopher Walken was like wildly cold and and just
didn't feel like Christopher Walken, which was nice.
Yeah,
in a sense, right?
He was like this, like weak, cold, dark, methodical man, and it was so interesting to see him play it.
Absolutely, yeah, he did a great job. I think I'd like to talk about the ending of this movie now, if you're cool. Going to there.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, basically, like, I just kind of wanted to get to the throne room scene, or whatever you want to call that, where like the emperor is they like, like in the room, and like, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think like that's like the moment this movie was like building to, I think like that's it's beautiful to see Paul, like, it feels like he's come to his full like realization of who he is and like what he can do. Basically it feels like, like the emperor came there and he's like, you got no chance, buddy. Like, like I'm, like we got the Bene Gesserit, we got Fade Ratha, like you're not going to win this. But man, like Paul's like hit the voice he uses, incredible, like chills when he screamed at the Bene Gesserit to like silence, it was amazing. The fight between him and Fade Ratha was probably like a top 3 moment in this movie as well for me. Incredible fight. Yeah, I mean, like I really don't have any complaints about that. Like the last 20 minutes, probably. It's just it's high stakes. Yeah, and you get some great drama between Paul and Chani. Yeah, and another like surprise turn where like obviously the drama from Paul and Chani is him asking Princess Ireland to like, like I'll not asking but saying like, if you step down, I'll take your daughter's hand. And I just think maybe not knowing what Paul's thinking all the time did serve the movie like well, because that was a wonderful twist at the end. I thought it was great.
Yeah. I agree. Like the stakes, you felt all of the stakes, and it felt like a great climax to everything.
Absolutely.
Obviously, like I said, like there was changes that like it's hard for me to separate things. So like obviously Baron does not die from Paul, but there is a kind of catharsis when that happens. Touching back before we go, like I talk about the end scene. I would say we both agreed that Gurney killing Robin.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah,
was not as.
It was
fulfilling.
Pretty lame. It was pretty. That's probably my least favorite part of the whole movie. It's because like I don't know, they built up Gurney wanting revenge for like the whole movie, and then like we get to it and it's just like it's like 2 seconds.
Yeah,
it's just and like Dave Bautista's character had built up in a way for like 2 straight movies, and then he just gets like wiped like that, and you're like, all right.
Yeah. So I'll say like that was a little disappointing.
It was,
but then going back to the throne scene, it's and even before that, finding out he is the grandson of the Baron.
Yeah, stuff I'm forgetting. Yeah, crazy.
It's in the books too, like you don't necessarily know what Paul is thinking. It's always like alluded to, like I know, like he's like figuring out, and there's a narrow line where to walk this, and I think they still like went about how, like, we don't know very much, and that obviously I think serves the movie better. And like you feel a little confused about how it's going to happen, but the you feel like I think with like Chani in the movie, you feel even more betrayed than you do in the books, because in this she's like, no, I don't want the prophecy because this is bad for us. And like, she's fighting it the whole time. And
I guess that's where I'm confused, because like I understand that like his like the Fremen were in danger, like when Fade Ratha like got to the world, but like was that all that like changed his mind from like going full in on the prophecy, or like what was it in the books at least?
Well, the thing is that he knew if he went into the South, he was going to be met with all the fanaticals, and he would pretty much have no choice. Like, I think maybe that's where like the movie could have explained things a little bit better, because it was like this thin line that he was like, look, I'm doing okay as like being part like of being Fremen, but like if I go down there, like it's either I have to kind of go all in on this Messiah thing, or I risk like not like losing everything I have pretty much that I've built up.
Okay.
And you know, like he takes the water of life, and he's basically goes through all the stuff that his mother did, and his abilities are enhanced. So he becomes the Kwisatz Haderach, he becomes Majib, you know, like, so he's like fulfilling 2 prophecies at that point. And which, by the way, the War Council scene, amazing. Like when he walks up in the siege in the South.
Oh my gosh.
And he's like, none of you can take me.
Yeah,
and
I was like, what is going on? Yeah. That was
a top scene too. Like
that was a really good one. Yeah.
And like in a way, like I also kind of wonder if they could have played that out a bit more, because like you see like his mom being like slow down, because he knows like it in like you kind of like know that there's like a line to walk of like either like pushing it too hard where people are not gonna like they're just gonna think you're an asshole, versus like believing that you're this like figure that they've waited this whole time for.
Right.
But yeah, like you definitely feel the betrayal. Like I know a lot of people felt like that Chani betrayal. And in the book, she's more like on his side with the whole thing. She's very supportive of the prophecy. This is very much not that.
Interesting.
I think it serves still a betrayal.
The story better.
Like he's like, and I think you feel a little bit more from the princess's side of like, she will never love, like Paul will never love her. Paul will only love Chani.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, he says that at the very end. So
yeah. And you know, obviously there's no way that this does not get a third movie, considering the box office, considering how the movie literally ends, which like, yes, you could take it as the ending. And it's like, we've made this cautionary tale for messianic figures, where now you have a whole group of people who are a whole race of people who are now going to take on his banner and kill in his name. And also in a weird way, like they're kind of enslaved. Like now they're a part of this larger galactic, you know, kind of empire. So like everything that Chani's kind of afraid of. But let's be real, like they're gonna do a third movie.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they set up the fact that none of that, like, great houses are behind him, and so there's gonna be a great holy war. I mean, like, how can you just say that at the very end and then never have a third movie? Like, there has to be a third one. Yeah, it just depends on how long we have to wait to see it. So, yeah,
I think
that's a real question.
Probably 2 to 3 years.
I'm gonna say 4. I'm gonna say 4 years.
Could be 4.
Yeah.
Could be
longer.
Could be longer. I don't think it'll be that long.
Yeah, I hope not. I really hope not. But no, yeah, this was a great 2-parter. I think I wished maybe it was more conclusive. But I think
I'll say like that's the thing. Like there was an active change. Like I think it wasn't I don't remember at least that it was like, okay, now the Holy War has begun as much. Like there might have been, but it felt more conclusive that like this was
a victory, right?
It was like a victory, but it was like a tragic victory. It was like, yes, I'm the leader. Yes, I like
But at what cost?
I got revenge, but I'm also now about like going to be the head emperor, you know, and I am not actually with the person I love, and you know, all that stuff. So
Right. Yeah. Well, overall, obviously, it's a great one. We're gonna recommend you watch it at this very second. So yeah, turn off the podcast and
go buy your movie ticket.
But no, it's really good. Obviously, watch the first one. But yeah, it's great. It's great.
Yeah.